UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What is up, Los Angeles? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening, wherever you are. Happy Election Day. Welcome to the LA Football Podcast here on the Believe Podcast Network, also on LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for Los Angeles football. Joined as always, my co-host, my good friend, the great one, Frostee Rucker. What's going on, man?
Ryan, LA, what's popping?
Same old, same old. Well, I mean, I guess not same old, same old. Today's a big day, but another day in Los Angeles, huge day. You voted already?
Yeah, I voted about 3 weeks ago, early vote. Went in, sat in line for about 30, 40 minutes. Wasn't too bad. Wasn't cold. I was back east when I did it because I am a resident of Kentucky on paper. So
there you go.
That's where I was at, and I cast my vote, felt good about it, and still feel good about it today.
There you go. Good for you. Got the early voting. Historic in this country with all the early voting. It's cool to see that. Everyone is voicing their opinions and getting out, and I will be going as soon as this show is over to cast my vote. We're going to walk down to our spot. So it's always a big day. Always vote. I don't like politics. I don't like getting into it. But the one thing I will say before we get to our LA football teams, that was depressing weekend. So we'll get into that. I'm a little hot about some of the stuff that happened. So we'll get into that. I'm a little fired up, Frosty. But the only political thing I'll say is living here in California, I feel like there's a lot of people that maybe won't vote just because a lot of, specifically presidentially, it's usually kind of spoken for in California. But there's so many important, local and state initiatives on the ballot. So I just encourage people to go out and vote regardless of your political views, or especially presidential, because there's a lot of local stuff that's super important that you need to voice your opinion on.
Yeah, my mom's one of those people that she is on Facebook a lot, right? And there's a whole bunch of stuff, political stuff that goes on. And, we've had some constructive conversations about what the top level of it is with government and locally, what can really affect you and change your day-to-day. So it's been good conversation. We do understand what's out there, what's in front of us, and I felt good knowing that we were both educating each other on some of these topics, and really, really, really everyone should vote locally also.
Yeah, super important. Really probably has a bigger effect on your day-to-day life in reality than the big one. But I love that, and I'm not calling your mom old, so let me just say the older generation, but how in tune now our older generation is to Facebook. My parents, my grandparents, like they're on Facebook 24/7 now.
Yeah, I mean it's taken over for soap operas, right?
There you go. Yeah, no more telenovelas over here. It's all
Hospital, that was a staple. Not anymore. It's Facebook and reposting things and misinformation. And
just going down rabbit holes that aren't even real. And oh man.
But that's good for them. They're active and their mind's going. So, again, I'm just encouraged that our parents are staying active and they're staying connected, and that's a great thing.
Absolutely. And it gives us an easy way to share, for me and my wife, share photos of our baby without having to just continually send stuff. They can just go to Facebook. It's all right there.
Yeah, people really know your whole life if you
Facebook. Kind of dangerous. Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it's all. You have a real inside look. Today's show is always brought to you by betonline.ag. They got plenty of props on the election tonight, so I don't know if you're listening to the show on Wednesday or Thursday, that may have passed, but if you're listening to it as we are dropping it, plenty of props in the election, but obviously football is the big sport right now. Plenty of stuff going on with the Chargers and Rams to bet on, Super Bowl props, all that good stuff, so head to betonline.ag. If you haven't yet signed up, they got great sign-up bonuses that'll help you with your future winnings, so head to betonline.ag today. All right, Frosty, let's just get into these games now. Let's start with the Rams. They played the morning game out in Miami.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Oh, man. Awful. Okay, let's say this. Let's start positive. I'm always a positive guy. Defense looked great. Came out to play right off the bat. Tua's first snap, Aaron Donald hits him with the strip. Michael Brockers pancakes him, and they get the ball, and that was the tone set. That it was like, okay, this is going to be a great game. And you both thought the Rams were going to come out, guns blaring, have a blowout in a sense. Guess we were wrong, but the defense at least came out to play.
Yeah, defense showed up. That's always a positive note. But, again, like I said, let's rip the Band-Aid off this. The Rams total as a team just did not get it done. Everything we said in our game, our cast before, with Tua starting, this Rams defense would do exactly what they did. They did that. But the offensive side of the ball, special teams, they let up too many plays, too many turnovers. And for a team that's supposed to be in contention to go the distance, they didn't show up. And this may be the opposite side of how we think. They keep playing these tough, close games, nail-biting games, and they win some. But when you lose to a team like that, on paper, they're a decent team. Dolphins aren't the worst team out there.
No.
But when you're a contender and you've been in the Super Bowl in the last 3-4 years, you don't get beat like that. They didn't show up in Miami, and now they got to sit here and salt in it over a whole bye week and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the bye week came at a perfect time because they do need to figure some things out. I said, in our preview that establishing the run, I say it every week, is so important. And they did end up with 29 carries, so they almost hit that 30 sweet spot that I like to shoot for. But a lot of that was once the game was out of reach, they were kind of just almost put up the white flag. Yeah, just running the ball. And, they didn't get Cam Akers involved until very late in the game, and he showed some great flash. Still don't know why they're not utilizing him. They used a second-round pick on him, and he's healthy now, and they're still not really getting him involved. So, but I want to talk now, focus this mainly, because we don't need to recap the game. Everyone watched, everyone saw it. Everyone probably turned it off halfway. I drink a lot of these Who's House Golden Roads during the game to ease the pain. Hashtag wet check, the new thing we're starting here. But Sean McVay and Jared Goff. Who is more to blame for this? Because you have Jared Goff throw the ball 61 times, which is never a recipe for success for this Rams team. And he had 4 turnovers, 2 picks, 2 fumbles, one of them a fumble return for a score. Could have had another pick 6 later in the game that was dropped. So he obviously did not look right in this one. And yet Sean McVay kept just dropping him back and slinging it. And I'll get more into it in a second, but I want to hear your thoughts on who you think is either more to blame. Is it equal blame, or what are you putting this one on?
They're equal to blame, Ryan. Let's be real here. They are the poster guys of this team. They're the face of the franchise. I think Sean McVay has the utmost confidence in Goff, and he wants to prove to everyone, and maybe even he's listening to Goff a little bit too much, that he can throw the ball and play catch up and throw the ball 60 times a game. I don't think it's a recipe that's going to get them there, but when you're getting touchdowns on special teams against you, you're playing catch-up ball, and you got to throw the ball down the field. And, they're a patient type of offense. They kind of dial it up at the right moment to get that big play. But when the stress is there for them of this last game and they have to try to score points to keep up, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a recipe for disaster. It felt like the line maybe blocked a couple different ways, and there was a guy open. He's getting sacked. He's getting hit. He's not a runner already, so he's trying to stay in the pocket. And it was just a recipe for disaster. They both have to share the blame on this one. Obviously, we both thought they were going to win this game, and it was going to be because the offense was ready to click and get going. And I'm a little disappointed because I value this team as they're really good and they can really make noise. But when they're playing like this and they're starting to really show us that they're really inconsistent, and week in, week out, we're always making excuses and saying they're good, but they play bad ball on Sunday.
Yeah. No, I've said it a lot. I've always been supportive of Goff and had his back, but I've also been honest. I don't think we know what Goff is. He's not your top 5 elite quarterback. He's just not. It's not what he's going to be. And that means you're not going to put the ball in his hands when the game's on the line. But he, in my opinion, is a top 15 quarterback, which is good enough to get the job done. If you have a good defense, you have the good pieces around. If you have a top 15 quarterback, then it's on you, the organization, the job, and the coaching staff to give him the best tools to succeed, which I think they've done in a sense. But then as the game goes on, and I want to highlight one thing here, Frosty. They talked about it a lot on the broadcast and a lot afterwards. Jonathan Vilma, one of the guys on the call, so I thought did a great job, former linebacker. I thought he sounded great in the booth. But Miami was running these like cover zero blitzes, they call them, right? The no safety deep, no help. all-out blitz. So you have, at the line of scrimmage, you have 6 guys, and the Rams, for some reason, and this is where I put the blame on McVay, but also on Goff, and I'll get to it. I'm gonna vent here for a second. So you just cut in whenever you want, because I'm gonna get fired up.
Let it rip, man. Let it rip.
They kept running 0 running back sets, right? So they have everyone spread out, Goff by himself. You have 6 guys on blitzing you, 5 guys on scrimmage, 1 guy more. Not a repetition, pretty easy to see. So either you need to just call a timeout, or you need to say this ball needs to be out extremely quick because someone is coming free blitzing at me. And this happened all the time. McVay didn't leave a running back there. Finally, a few times he left a tight end close to at least chip the guy. But still, even the play call, they're still running these 5, 7, 8, 9-yard routes. Everyone's going deep. And by the time Goff throws it, the guy's either in his face, he threw a pick, or the ball's getting batted down, or it's just a bad throw. So you do either 2 things. You recognize this. You change up the play calling to include a running back there to support him. Or many times, Frosty, in these cover 0 blitzes, every single defender, all 5 guys back, were 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. Why not do an immediate Z screen to Robert Woods, snap it, throw it to him? That's 5 to 8 yards every single time. You get the ball out immediately, no harm done, 7 to 8 yards, make the defense adjust, and then go from there. But they didn't do that. They just kept throwing these slant routes, these 8, 10-yard routes, and that's where I'm like, okay, A, McVay, what are you doing not giving support? B, Jared Goff now in his, 5th year in the NFL? How are you not recognizing there's a 10-yard cushion? Let's call an audible and just get a hot route and just get this guy the ball, get it 8 yards every time. 8 yards is a positive play, and you're going to win football games doing that. That was the frustrating thing for me, that everyone wants to criticize all these different things, but that's, to me, very simple football. I know I didn't play the game. That's pretty simple to say we can get those yards every time. That's how we're going to beat this cover 0 blitz.
Yeah, it just seemed like they weren't playing the game to move the chain so much. They were playing the game to move the chain and not score points. And being effective is finding different ways to get different guys the ball quicker to make a play. And it just didn't work out. Like you said, they were running cover 0 blitzes at them. You know there's going to be a guy coming off either the middle or the edge that the quarterback is responsible for. So that literally falls on Goff. If the pass protection is going in one way and the center's pointing that way and everyone's sliding and the guy comes off the edge and can just completely run through and just destroy your quarterback, that quarterback needs to know the protection and know that guy's coming, he's hot, and get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
I don't think they respected that defense as much as they should have. Miami is a dangerous team. I think they were listening to us thinking just because Tua was playing, it was all good. We didn't say much about the Dolphins defense, but they, sure enough, spoke with their pads, and they really set the tone and crippled the Rams offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did say how good the secondary was. They spent a lot of money bringing over some guys who played very well, and that was what we said. It could not become, if you will, pissing match with the throwing game, and that's what it became. Because you let those guys pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, and obviously Brian Flores called a great defensive game. And if you're not going to stop the cover 0, why are you going to stop calling it? So that's what they kept doing, and they were in Goff's face all day. So to me, it was a big gut check. We say it after every loss. This Niner game was a gut check, but this was to me even more of a gut check just because of how exposed the offense looked. And I think it's fair to say this, Frosty, and I don't know a ton about Kevin O'Connell. I don't know if you do either. He's now the offensive coordinator, obviously, formerly of Washington. Sean McVay is a great head coach. You can't have a few bad games and all of a sudden the sky is falling. Sean McVay is going to get things figured out. But do you think it's actually time to have the discussion that maybe Kevin O'Connell takes over play calling duties? Has McVay done enough in these bad 3 losses? Because they've been bad 3 losses. Obviously, the Bills game, they came roaring back, but the offense was flat for a whole half. Is it time to have those discussions, or is it still, you know what, McVay's fine, he just needs to get consistent?
Well, for me, I think McVay's fine at the position he's in, and they just played bad. I'm not going to hit the panic button completely on them as, the organization that they're just going to go down the toilet just because if this season doesn't map out the same way. I don't believe in that. I think McConnell does know how to dial it up, and I think it's going to just be growing pains. I think that's just where we're at. We're at growing pains, and let's be real, McVay is leaning on him. That's why he wanted him there. He's leaning on him to either figure it out, get it through, or there will be changes. But as of now, if McVay is not speaking out against it, if he's not changing his approach to each Sunday, I don't think there's going to be anything that we can say that can cause any effect or be the answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there will be a change because that's Sean McVay's MO. He wants to call the plays. That's what got him a head coaching job, is his offensive prowess. But the downfall of his coaching career thus far, which is still so early on, 34 years old, like the future's bright in LA. Like I want to keep pushing that down. Like, we're not hitting the panic mode. This is a growing pain. These games are going to happen. But his MO is when the going gets tough, the play calling gets very, very suspect. And we just need to see the consistency there of what makes him so great, because there's games that he calls just against the Bears, called a great game, bounces back. So I have no doubt in my mind coming off the bye in their next game against Seattle that he's going to call a great game. But it's just that consistency, getting it every week, seeing what's working, seeing what's not. And if it's not working, try something new. He talked about bringing in a different D coordinator because they want those adjustments. And Brandon Staley's done that. I thought Brandon Staley's been phenomenal as a D coordinator. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
The guys
are playing hard.
They're playing flat out great. The defense looks amazing with all the pieces they lost and a lot of players that are just kind of filling guys that we didn't know a lot about, and they're showing out. But McVay, on the other end, is not adapting and not making adjustments. And so that's the only concerning thing. I still think he'll be fine, get it figured out. But him and Kevin O'Connell are going to have a lot of discussions over this bye week about how they want to do things going forward, because it was just a bad offensive game. You look at the stats. I mean, Goff ended up with 355 yards. That doesn't tell a story. Doesn't tell a story at all. When you're throwing it 61 times, you better have over 300 yards passing.
Exactly. And I honestly feel like this team, the guys need to make some plays. We do have Bobby Trees. Obviously, we're big fans of Bobby Trees.
Yeah, big touchdown.
That more guys need to make plays. People got to break tackles. Offensive line has to give one more extra block, push the piles, do what they do the extra stuff, take that extra step. And that may be some of the things. Because I think McVay and McConnell, to say, they have complete confidence in their players. Mm-hmm. So it may look like they're not down it up, but guys did make someone miss, or they dropped the ball, or they didn't get that first down that could have changed the spectrum of the game. So I'm going to still say I'm not throwing this team down the toilet, but they have a bye week, and they really need to take advantage of it. Leadership on the team, Whitworth, Goff, Bobby Trees, I like saying that name.
Yep.
These guys need to get on Zoom, or they need to have a team meeting and really challenge their team. Oh, Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers.
Yeah.
Let me go back to that. Have that quote unquote come to Jesus meeting with just the players and say, it's either, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to fight, or are we going to fold?
Yeah.
Are we going to be a roller coaster, or are we just going to be treading up? Because you don't want to keep going up and then down, up and down. You want to keep going forward and getting better and better and striving to get to that ultimate goal. And those leaders have to challenge guys a little bit more, because what we seen Sunday isn't the identity that I thought this Rams team had.
It's like that scene in Remember the Titans when they get back from camp, all hell's starting to break loose, and they all call team meeting in the gym late at night, and it's the team captain, shut the doors, turn around, and they start that little clapping. They need one of those moments.
Yeah.
Obviously, those are different circumstances, but when it comes to football, they need one of those moments.
You never want to do it just out of panic. Me being on teams, I like to have those meetings before the season started. No coaches, just the players. What's going to be our identity? How are we going to fight through the adversity? What are we going to do? So then we're not surprised when something happens. We've already talked about it. So I don't know if they did it before the season or whatnot, but they have a perfect opportunity to stack them again during this bye week and get this thing mapped out, because the season's not going to get any easier.
They got a gauntlet the next 4 games.
Oh, yeah.
Seattle, Arizona, they got a gauntlet.
And they'll be lucky to split 2 of those games. So, So it's time. It's time for those leaders to step up and get this thing going.
Yeah. And, if they do split it, we'll get way more into that in the coming weeks. But that would put them at 7-5, which isn't ideal, but they're still in an opportunity to make some noise and go on a run there as the schedule softens a little bit after those 4 games. Right. Let me put you on the spot. Who's better right now, Jared Goff or Carson Wentz this season? They've both had struggles.
That's a good one. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz.
Okay.
Carson Wentz doesn't have the same team that Goff has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's doing whatever he can to will his team to victories. And Goff pretty much has a better setup, better defense, even though the Eagles played great versus the Cowboys, but the Cowboys aren't playing better than
it's a Pop Warner offense.
Who's a Pacific right now. So, you know what I mean? So let's be real here. I think Carson Wentz is playing better, but that's not saying a lot, because I think Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Goff.
Yeah, I think we've both said that, and that's nothing against Jared Goff. They're both pretty close, both same draft class. They'll always be compared. Um, it's a hard to get into because both QBs had very, very porous games the last times out. I think they both had 4 turnovers. I know Goff did. I think Carson Wentz did as well. The only difference is that Philly came away with the win. But Goff's, last thing I'll say, and I'll put a bow on it, I think Goff's looked really good at times this year. He's been ranked in the top 3 sometimes by Pro Football Focus's rankings, has looked accurate. It's just, to me, it's that marriage. You mentioned it, the marriage of McVay and Goff. They need to get in cohesion consistently, and we can't have these poorly called games where they just put the team on Goff's back, expecting him to do things, and especially on those, blitz packages. I don't know. They got to get things figured out. But the sky's not falling. They're 5-3. They're very much in the hunt. They'll just have a big test against Seattle coming off the bye.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge game. Obviously, Seattle is a real contender. And if this Rams team has any pulse in them or any drive and they want to, they're going to have to get it ironed out this week and not take it as a bye. It's not like they can go anywhere during COVID anyway.
Yeah.
Be in the office every day.
Mm-hmm.
Come in the morning, make sure you're healing up, you're getting your workouts in, but film. Let's get it corrected and let's get it ready for this next stretch.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say about this game, again, we'll preview it later, Seattle's got a pretty porous defense. So I like the Rams offense to rebound big in that one against a very non-typical Seattle defense. Obviously, their offense is fantastic. I like the Rams defense, though, but yeah, we'll get into that more. So Rams are fine, guys. They're going to bounce back. I got a little fired up there just because I believe so much in Sean McVay. I believe in the marriage of McVay and Goff.
Yeah.
They always had struggles. Goff is a good quarterback, guys. He's a good top 15 quarterback, which is good enough in this league to win you a Super Bowl if you do things the right way. They just didn't do it the right way, Miami. They'll get back on track.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So let's put a bow on that. Let's move on. The game's over. Enough moaning over it. So before we get into another game, disappointing, probably more so they're both disappointing, but the way it ended was more so disappointing. Let's hear a quick message from our sponsor, the Seattle Shirt Co. With shoppers buying everything online these days, getting those holiday gifts for family and friends is going to be harder than ever. But no need to worry because our friends at the Seattle Shirt Company have got us covered. Jay and the team have an unbelievable selection of NFL and NBA jerseys for everyone on your list. These jerseys are 100% authentic, from current superstars like LeBron James to all-time legends like Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Walter Payton. Seattle Shirt Company has it all. And right now, for our listeners, we have a special one-time only pre-Black Friday Cyber Monday deal. Everything you buy at seattleshirt.com is 30% off. So head to seattleshirt.com and enter the code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, at checkout for 30% off your entire order. Shipping is always free. Seattle Shirt Company, helping you get ready for the holidays a little bit early. Once again, that's BLEAV at checkout, seattleshirtcompany.com. All right, Frosty. So this Chargers game brought to you by Golden Road, Bolt Up Golden Ale. Had plenty of these as well during the game. Facing the Broncos. Man, another blown lead. I think it was 24-3 at one point or 21-3 at one point. Came back, ended up losing 31-30 on the final play of the game. We don't have to get into all the statistics or stats. Herbert looked pretty good again. Had two interceptions in this one. I'll talk about that in a minute, but let's just off the bat, let's start with Anthony Lynn because that's the talk of the town. I don't even want to call it a mixed bag anymore. I would say the majority is ready to move on from Lynn. I don't know. I think we might feel differently, but I want to hear from you first. What's your thoughts on Lynn after another blown? This is their, I think, third blown lead in the fourth quarter, fourth blown lead of double-digit points in a row. The Jacksonville game, they ended up holding on to win, but fourth blown lead in a row. And, it's not good. What's your thoughts on Lynn?
Yeah, again, I'm a big fan of Anthony Lynn. I'm a big fan of him and Herbert continuing to get better. But the inability for them to finish games is starting to get a little frustrated. And by that, I mean like Arthur Fist frustrated. It's like they do all the things possible to be in contention of the games. They get up in leads. They come out hot and smoking. People can't compete with them. They can't even match their energy. And then there's a lax in there where they get a score and then there's another score. And then before you know it, this team's trailing and fighting for their lives. At some point, I can't even put that on Lynn. Again, some of it's the players. The players have to stop this bleeding. They have to somehow regroup and say, okay, we know what it is. We know this is when our lax is. If it's halftime, we have to come out with the same energy and tempo at halftime. If they got to drink Pepsis and Coca-Colas and Sprites and have some more energy, that's what they're just going to have to do coming out of the halftime. And maybe the Red Bulls aren't working. I don't know. But they got to figure it out, because whatever happens at halftime, they come out flat and they never recuperate. And that's what's going to get this coach on the hot seat. It's their inability to face adversity or not even let it happen. Like follow the game plan and get it done. You got to make plays and stop the team from scoring.
Yeah. Here, let me ask you this, and then I'll vent again in a minute and let you cut in, because I got fired up on this one too. I want to get into it, but let me ask you this first. Lynn, being the head coach, obviously is not the defensive mind. He's the offensive guy. Shane Steichen calls the plays, but Lynn, former running back, he's an offensive guy. All these losses, I mean, you're a defensive guy. I don't want to, I'll just say it bluntly though, but they've been on the defense. I mean, the offense have scored over 30 points in almost every single game this season, minus the Carolina game. The offense has played very well. Even in this game, a lot of people like to say, oh, Lynn, once they get a lead, they play too conservative. They do this and that. They scored more points in the second half than they did in the first half. So the offense was still clicking, still moving the ball, taking time off the clock. I know that last drive, they didn't get a touchdown, but they were a chop block away from Hunter Henry from getting a touchdown, but they still put points on the board to give them a 6-point lead. It's the defense that's let them down. So as a head coach, I know everyone wants to just point to Lynn as these losses. Is the bigger issue the fact that he's still allowing Gus Bradley to be his D coordinator and hasn't made a switch there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think any of the frustration would come from on my end. Or I'm sure the majority of the people, it's just the management of Gus Bradley. But some would call Gus Bradley a mastermind of defense. He coached a very talented team in Seattle, which had a very, very surplus of great players. Mm-hmm. Right now, he's a little behind on the great player thing, and they're just finding ways to create defenses, create blitzes to probably make up for some of the lack of skill at certain areas. The defense does fight, but they do not finish. And when they don't finish, that comes from not just leadership, it's veteran leadership. You had a Chris Harris guy that they probably were waiting for to come from Denver to be that spark, and he's injured. Mm-hmm. That influence is not in the huddle, right? So we're going to have to say Gus Bradley needs to pick it up. Bosa's down. I hope they don't scramble and just throw it all in. Someone has to step up and become another leader, if it's up front, if it's a linebacking corps, but they don't finish well, and that's the frustrating part. And Coach Lynn has to either pull Gus aside and say, hey, what are you going to do? Because I'm sure it's coming from the top that something needs to be done.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And when you keep losing these close games and it's because you let teams back in it, obviously it falls on the head coach. That's why he gets paid head coach money. That's why he has head coach next to his name, because he's the top guy. It falls on him. But, and I want to make an emphasis on this, to me, what more falls on Lynn is he needs to make a decision about what's happening on the defensive side of the ball, whether that means continuing with Gus Bradley or making a move. I don't know if it's ever happened where someone's been hired off the streets, but I just want to put it in the universe. Wade Phillips, Super Bowl coach, sitting on his couch right now. I don't know if you've got, I'm not saying that's smart to bring someone in and change the whole defensive system mid-season, but something needs to change on defense, and whether that's just, getting on Gus and saying, hey, you have a 2 to 3 week now window where put up or, get out kind of thing. Because if it's not Gus, it's going to be Anthony Lynn probably at the end of the season, whether we agree or not. That's just how it's going to work if they keep losing these close games. But where I look at it, and here's where I want to vent. I'm on Twitter all the time, and I see all these Chargers fans, rightfully so, frustrated, and they automatically point to the head coach, which every fan base does pretty much. But you have a young quarterback, I've talked about it before, in Justin Herbert. If you thought Anthony Lynn was a good enough coach when you drafted Herbert, you can't move on in 1 year. You need to create a marriage between those two. And you have to give Anthony Lynn credit for how good Justin Herbert's good. Everyone wants to talk about how great Justin Herbert's been. But a lot of that goes to Anthony Lynn, Shane Steichen, and Pep Hamilton. You can't just blow that up and all of a sudden hope that the next day you come in makes Justin Herbert just as good. I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but you can't expect that. 2, what I want to say, the problem isn't on the offensive side of the ball. Everyone that wants people to come in, I see Eric Bieniemy's name, who's a great mind. He's going to be a head coach. Great mind. You see Arthur Smith in Tennessee. You see all these different guys that are offensive minds. And everyone wants an offensive guy to come in and pair with Herbert. But that's not the problem. That doesn't fix the problem. You're literally taking out what's working and replacing with someone else that's going to do the same thing or make it even worse because you're changing up the system that Justin Herbert's come to learn it. So to me, you keep that as it is and you just address defense. And that's where Lynn has to be, put on his big boy pants and make a decision whether it's Gus Bradley or move on and get this thing right. But I don't think bringing in another offensive mind to replace Lynn is going to necessarily fix that.
No, and you're right. The woes are coming from the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, that must feel good to be on the opposite side of the ball and be like, hey, it's not on us, but you're a team, right? So That's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to have to, talk to Gus about it, and maybe there's a guy already on the staff that the guys may play a little harder for, or maybe they get a couple guys back. But regardless of the fact, you can't go get Wade Phillips off the couch and bring him in there and change the system midpoint. You just that wouldn't be the smartest thing. And that's why you never do that, Brian. That's why you're behind a microphone and couch coaching.
Yep.
But obviously, we're not going to do that. But
maybe
something's going to happen, and they got to weather the storm. They got to get some players back, and there's always next year. Am I saying that already? Am I being premature with it?
Ooh, are we going there already? I mean, they're 2-5, last in the division. It might be time. I'm not going to go yet. I'm not going to panic yet.
Okay, don't do it. But
I'm a glass half full. You know that.
Yeah. But there is a panic button like right behind the computer screen.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put it right here on the table, but it's right behind there, So
it's around the corner.
I'm in. Like I said earlier in this season, it's been all about the offense moving on from Phillip Rivers. Got a new guy that's driving the ball down the field, making the plays, and they really have a strong core of what they're trying to get done. It's the defensive side of the ball now that has to pick it up.
Yeah.
Before the years past, it was Phillip, turning the ball over at the worst times possible or never giving them a chance to win. They'd be all the way there, and then somehow he'd trick it off. That's not the case anymore. So Chargers fans should be pumped about that. But what you're not pumped about is your defense. But look at the players you got out.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. Sorry to cut you off. And this is not to take another jab at Gus because I know I've been hard on him. But when you look at the Legion of Boom and even some of the offenses he had when he was a head coach in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take a jab at some of these Chargers players because they're all playing hard. These losses are tough, but it's not like they're quitting or anything. They're in every game, which we've said before. That's coaching. When teams are getting blown out, that's when you have a coaching issue. Look at the Jets. They have a coaching issue because of how that team's performing. The Chargers are just not finishing, as we say ad nauseum. But to me, it's a level of coaching, but it's also a level of execution they're not getting. And that execution comes to, unfortunately, the players on the field. You look at the Legion of Boom, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, all these phenomenal back-end players, they're all hurt for the Chargers right now. No Derwin James, no Chris Harris Jr. They've been banged up in other areas. Casey Hayward's been banged up. Joey Bosa goes out with a concussion. You don't want to keep making excuses for injuries because the team they played last week, the Broncos, probably have more injuries. They lost another guy, Mike Purcell, out for the season before this game even started. But when your defense is based on that, when Gus Bradley's system is based on star talent and you don't have it, that's why you need to make a change at the coordinator position because you need to start making adjustments that are going to benefit who you have, not who is sitting on the IR. And that's unfortunately, Gus Bradley's system is so integral to who is suiting up, and it doesn't make adjustments in game. And that's why we see a Broncos team that has 55 yards total through 2.5 quarters and then put up 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
There's no adjustments there.
No adjustments, can't get bad. No adjustments, haven't gotten better through that, can't finish. And that's just to sum up this Chargers defense.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and we'll wrap it up. I got fired up. Had to vent there a minute.
You're good, man.
If the Chargers, because looking at their schedule, they got the Raiders next week. Another division game. The Raiders look good. Another win. They're sitting at, 4-3. They got a winning record. Derek Carr is playing. He's not getting talked about. I think Derek Carr is playing one of his best football in his career right now. He's playing phenomenal. Josh Jacobs is the real deal running back. They've had issues at offensive line with COVID protocols, and they're still protecting him, putting up good fronts. So the Raiders they're a good team. They're a good football team, well coached. So that's going to be a tough game. After that, though, you got the Dolphins, another good team. We saw how good that defense is, but I think the Chargers' offense can match up, and I don't think the Dolphins' offense is that explosive yet. That'll be Tua's, I think, third game by then. After that, though, you have the Jets. You get a good Bills team, but then you have a struggling Patriots team and a struggling Falcons team. So this team can really make a run through this next 6 games. Even if they go, let's say they split them 3-3. They lose to the Raiders, the Bills, and let's say the Dolphins. They lose those 3, which I think they should take one of them. Let's say they split them 3-3. So that, do you think, is the end of Anthony Lynn?
I don't think it's the end of Anthony Lynn. I just think the party's over for the season. He gets the benefit of the doubt because the offensive side of the ball, hopefully throughout this next stretch, isn't the reason they lose. And they get it figured out this offseason with a great offseason, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, a draft, and they restack them and they recalibrate on how to compete. Yeah.
I agree. I think if they can go 4-2 in this stretch, obviously it's not good for the season, but I think that bodes well for Lynn. Again, I just don't think you blow up what you've done with this young quarterback yet. I think it's too important because, again, I feel like I always say this, but the last thing I'll say on this is everyone wants to say, fire Lynn, but make sure you keep Steichen and Pep Hamilton. Well, that's on the new coach. It's his coaching staff. Maybe he wants to go a different direction. So it's not guaranteed you get to keep Steichen and Pep Hamilton, or even they want to play for, or even they want to coach under a new head coach. So the risk of that is not worth the reward when the issue is not what Anthony Lynn and his offense is. Obviously, he's the head coach. Say it again. But the issue is different. They just need to make adjustments on that side, and we'll start seeing these 4 blown losses or 4 blown leads turn into wins. And this team could be sitting at 5-2. So, yeah, rough week. But
on a positive note, I went 2 for 2.
Into positive.
I was 2-0 in my fantasy leagues. So,
oh, wow.
A wash for the week with LA football and my fantasy league. So,
I was 0-2, so I went 0-4 this weekend.
Ooh, that's why you're all fired up.
Yeah. Well, I played someone that had Dalvin Cook, who put 50 points, 50 spot on me.
Yikes.
Yeah, not going to win that. So
no, he's pretty good.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I think that's enough rehashing and venting and getting fired up. Big day.
Vote.
Go vote. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to the LA Football Podcast. Thank you, as always, to Golden Road Brewery. Make sure to pick up a pack of Who's House or Bolt Up. You can go right to lafbnetwork.com, go to the LAFB locker room, and you can purchase it right there. Get a pack of beer for the next cold game. Join us on Collide, new chat app. Head to the App Store. It's COLLYDE. We want to talk to you guys during the game. Talk about, obviously, the Rams are on a bye, but the Chargers, big matchup, as I mentioned, with the Raiders. So we want to talk with you and see if this team can get things turned around before it is too late. We're nearing that territory, but there's still time. This is a 5-loss team. I think 7 losses still gets you in the playoffs this year. So, and I don't know if you heard, Frosty, there's an initiative going to the NFLPA and the commissioner about potentially having an 8th team added this year just because of COVID. So 16 playoff teams this year, potentially.
Well, it's not a bad idea. You might as well keep changing things and make it as competitive as you can while you're playing catch the ball with time. It's time to give the players a little something extra. Yeah.
So we could see an 8. I mean, I think 8 losses gets you in at that point, maybe even a 7-9 team. Who knows if you have 8 teams making it in. So the season's not over yet. Let's put our positive cap on, get things figured out, still stay supportive of this Chargers team, still stay supportive of this Rams team who's 5-3. Bad week. They're going to bounce back. They're going to be just fine.
Positive cap is on. You see it.
Lakers cap.
Lakers.
Yeah. I had to turn mine backwards because I was not positive coming into this, but maybe I'll flip it around here in just a second. But so join us on Collide, COLLYDE. You can go to getcollide.com if you want to download it that way. Join all the rooms that say Believe in LA. Frosty and I will be in there. Let's just talk about our teams. Send us pictures of drinking Golden Road. We'd love to see that. Wet check. Hashtag wet check. And finally, next episode, Frosty, college football is finally back. The Trojans and Bruins finally play this weekend. So I'm excited to really get into it this next episode.
Yeah, time to dive into the Pac-12 and our COVID-7 season.
Yeah, and big game this weekend, Clemson and Notre Dame. One of those losing could mean if a Pac-12 team goes undefeated, could skyrocket up the rankings.
Here we go.
Yeah, so we'll get into that. Everyone, enjoy your week. Go vote. Make sure to let your voice be heard. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the above at LAFB Network. You can find Frostee at The Organic Frost. Myself is at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. We are everywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, everywhere you listen. We are. We're also video platform, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all at LAFB Network. Stay safe. Go vote. Frostee, appreciate you as always. Thanks, man.
Always. Thanks, LA. Let's rally and get some wins, and let's get excited for this next half of our LA Football Network. We're going to start talking about USC and UCLA, and obviously, I'm really prone to talk very positive and confident about my Trojans. So let's go.
There's a lot to be positive about. We're going to get into it. So enjoy your week, guys. We'll talk soon.
See ya.